The hum of Daniel Pierce's old pickup truck echoed through the vast emptiness of northern Canada, swallowed by the endless stretch of white wilderness. The snow was falling harder now, thick flakes slanting across the windshield like static. He could barely make out the road, if it could still be called that, a half-frozen dirt path winding through pine forests that looked identical for miles. He hadn't seen another vehicle in over 3 hours. Only the trees. Tall, ancient, whispering pines that creaked with the wind and loomed like silent sentinels. Daniel's eyes were heavy, his breath fogging up the glass. The heater had stopped working an hour ago, and the cold bit deep into his fingers. But he couldn't turn back. Not now. Not after finding Ethan's last GPS coordinates. Ethan Pierce, his younger brother, was a wildlife photographer, famous for his courage and his obsession with documenting untouched wilderness. He'd spent years trekking through mountains, forests, and frozen tundras. Danger never bothered him. Until now. 3 weeks had passed since Ethan's last message, a blurry photo of a wooden cabin deep in the wilderness with the caption, "Greater than, found something strange out here. We'll call tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. Daniel tightened his grip on the steering wheel as the truck skidded slightly on the icy road. He exhaled, forcing himself to focus. "Hang on, Ethan," he muttered under his breath. "I'm coming." Finally, after hours of crawling through the storm, he noticed faint tire tracks veering off the road. He stopped, climbed out, and felt the wind punch him in the face like shards of glass. The tracks were half buried in snow, but he could tell, they matched Ethan's Jeep. He followed them on foot, trudging through knee-deep snow, each breath burning his lungs. The sound of his boots crunching was the only noise in the vast stillness. After about 20 minutes, the forest opened into a small clearing. There it was. The cabin from the photo. It sat crookedly at the edge of the woods, its roof sagging under the weight of snow. The wood was old, gray, and splintered, as if it had been abandoned for decades. One of the windows was broken, and the front door hung slightly ajar, creaking softly in the wind. Daniel's gut twisted. He felt watched, though the forest around him was empty. He hesitated before stepping inside. The air was freezing, thick with the smell of mold and decay. Dust hung in the air like mist. His flashlight swept across a small table. On it lay Ethan's camera bag, his journal, and a thermos still half full. "Ethan," Daniel called softly, his voice echoing. No answer. Only the slow, rhythmic groan of the wind pushing against the cabin walls. He crouched near the camera bag, unzipped it, and pulled out the camera. The lens was cracked, as if dropped. He clicked the power button, dead. On the table, a notebook lay open. Ethan's handwriting filled the pages with notes. Greater than, tracks near the lake. Too large to be a bear. Voices in the woods after dark. Something's mimicking the wind. Daniel frowned. His flashlight beam drifted toward the far wall, and froze. Deep, ragged claw marks ran across the wood. Long, uneven, almost human. The temperature seemed to drop even lower. Daniel's breath came out in clouds. Then, from outside, came a sound, a dragging noise. Slow, wet, heavy. He turned off the flashlight and held his breath. The sound grew closer. Something was moving around the cabin. He crept to the window, heart pounding. Snow and darkness blurred everything, but his eyes caught movement, a shadow slipping between the trees. Tall, thin, too tall for a man. Its movements were jerky but somehow fluid, like it didn't belong to this world. Daniel's trembling hand lifted the camera and pressed the shutter. The flash exploded through the dark, illuminating the forest for a split second, and that's when he saw it. A pale, elongated figure standing just beyond the tree line, facing him. Its face was featureless except for 2 black hollows where eyes should be, and a mouth stretched impossibly wide, as if carved open. The flash blinked out. Darkness swallowed everything again. Daniel stumbled backward, gasping, the camera shaking in his hands. He turned on the flashlight again, but the window was now just a reflection of his own terrified face. Outside, the forest was silent. Then, faintly, somewhere in the wind, came a whisper. Greater than, Daniel. He froze. No one had spoken his name since he arrived. And from that moment, he knew, he wasn't alone out there. Daniel sat in the dark cabin, clutching the camera like a lifeline. His heartbeat pounded so loudly it drowned out the howling wind outside. He tried to convince himself it was a trick of the light, an illusion from exhaustion, but deep down, he knew what he'd seen. That thing in the trees wasn't human. He turned the camera on again, hoping the photo had captured something concrete, some proof that his eyes weren't lying. The display flickered, glitching, the screen filled with static and white noise. Slowly, the image resolved, a blur of white snow and twisted shadows. But through the distortion, he could still make out two faint, hollow eyes staring directly into the lens. His stomach dropped. The photo wasn't distorted by accident, it was like something had interfered with it. He set the camera down and looked around. The walls seemed to creak louder now, like they were breathing. The air felt heavier, thicker. The wind outside had died completely, replaced by a deep, rhythmic hum, almost like chanting. He picked up Ethan's notebook again and flipped through more pages. Ethan's handwriting grew more erratic toward the end. One page read, "Greater than, the voices come at night. They sound like people I know. I followed one into the woods, it was me. They want to be seen. But once you look, you can't unsee them." Daniel's mouth went dry. The words made no sense, but his instinct screamed that they were true. Then, from outside, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, heavy knocks at the door. Daniel froze. The hairs on his arms stood straight. He didn't move, didn't breathe. Another knock came, harder this time. He whispered, "Ethan." No answer. The knock stopped, replaced by silence. Then came a whisper, soft, close, too close, right by his ear. "Greater than, Daniel." He spun around, flashlight beam slicing through the room. No one there. Only the dancing shadows cast by the weak fire. His mind was spiraling. He ran to the window and shined his light into the night. The snow reflected the beam back like a mirror. The forest stood perfectly still. No movement, no tracks, nothing. But when he looked down, his blood ran cold. Footprints. Human footprints, leading from the woods straight to the door. Only one set, and no prints going back. Daniel stumbled backward, slamming the shutters closed. He sat by the fireplace, gripping the poker tightly, trying to steady his shaking hands. The flames crackled weakly, the light flickering against the walls. And then, in the smoke above the fire, a face appeared. It was Ethan's. His brother's frozen, pale face stared down at him from the haze, lips moving silently as though trying to speak. Daniel's heart stopped. He whispered, "Ethan, what are you trying to say?" The lips moved again, this time more frantically, but no sound came out, until suddenly, the fire flared bright and the smoke twisted into a new shape, the tall, pale figure he'd seen outside. The room grew, freezing cold. The fire died instantly. Daniel stumbled to his feet, gasping. The whisper came again, dozens of voices now, overlapping, all saying his name. He grabbed his flashlight and ran outside into the storm. But the forest wasn't empty anymore. All around the cabin, sticking out of the snow, were small wooden carvings, hundreds of them. Little human figurines, crudely shaped, all facing the cabin. He bent down and picked one up. His heart froze. It was his face. Every carving, identical, hollow-eyed, twisted versions of himself, staring silently through the snow. The whispers rose again, echoing through the pines like the breath of the dead. "Greater than, stay with us." And in that moment, Daniel realized something awful. The forest didn't just take people. It kept them. Daniel didn't stop running. He tore through the snow, tripping over roots, scraping his hands on ice, his flashlight beam swinging wildly. The forest stretched endlessly in every direction, the same trees, the same shadows. No matter how far he ran, it felt like he was going in circles. The wind began again, but now it wasn't just wind. It carried whispers, faint, desperate cries calling his name. Some sounded like Ethan, some sounded like himself. He burst into a clearing he didn't remember passing before. In the center stood something massive, a totem made of blackened wood, covered in strange carvings. Its top was shaped like a twisted, hollow face. Around it lay remnants of broken tripods, torn fabric, and old camera equipment, Ethan's gear. Daniel's chest heaved. He took a step closer. The totem pulsed faintly, like something inside it was alive. "Ethan," he shouted into the emptiness. "If you're here, please answer me." A moment passed. Then a voice, soft, trembling, echoed from behind him. "Greater than, Daniel." He turned sharply. Ethan stood there, just a few feet away, dressed in the same winter coat he'd seen in the photos. His face was pale, frost clinging to his eyelashes. His lips trembled as he spoke. Greater than, you shouldn't have come. Daniel stumbled forward. Oh my God, Ethan, I thought you were. Ethan raised a hand, his expression distant. It knows your name now. It's part of you. What are you talking about? We can leave. I brought the truck. Ethan's head tilted slightly, too far, his neck bending at an unnatural angle. It doesn't let anyone leave. Daniel froze. His brother's smile widened, stretching grotesquely across his face. And as he stepped closer, Daniel saw the truth. The skin around his mouth was torn, split open like a mask. Behind it, black void. Daniel screamed and stumbled backward. The ground beneath him cracked with a deep, echoing groan. He fell into the snow, but it wasn't snow anymore. It was faces. Dozens of faces frozen beneath the ice, mouths open in silent screams. Ethan's was among them. He clawed his way up, gasping, his breath fogging in the freezing air. The totem was pulsing faster now, emitting a low hum. The whispers returned, louder, overlapping. Greater than, stay. Join us. One of us. Daniel raised the camera and took one final picture. The flash exploded in the clearing, and for an instant, everything froze. In that blinding second, he saw them all, countless figures standing between the trees, pale and hollow, watching. Their eyes shimmered like empty glass. And at their center stood the tall creature, its body stretching upward like smoke, its head brushing the treetops. Then, darkness. The snow settled. The wind died. When a search team finally arrived days later, they found Daniel's truck abandoned by the road. The cabin was gone, as if it had never existed. No footprints. No tire marks. Only a broken camera half buried in the snow. The last photo on it showed two men. Standing in front of a wooden cabin, both identical. Both smiling. Behind them, half hidden by the trees, a tall, pale figure with hollow eyes stared at the lens. And even through the frozen screen, its faint whisper seemed to echo still. Greater than, welcome home.